Hello and welcome to the Thinking Ahead podcast. My name is Ronaldo Stevens and I'm your host on this journey to not only fund your future and education, but to find the right path for you while staying debt-free. You could say we're seeking truth in careers, college, and finance. I told you I'd change the order. Today is going to be a relatively quick episode, as when it posts, I will be on my several-day vacation in Williamsburg, Virginia. Why Williamsburg? Well, it's an area with a rich history of ties to colonial and revolutionary America, as well as the home of one of the best roller coaster theme parks on the East Coast, in Busch Gardens. Also, it was the best of the 4 free trip locations offered to me for sitting through a timeshare presentation. Don't judge me. I didn't buy it. Now, today's episode is going to be a rundown of 5 books that I believe can help give you insight and turn your life around. I know that some of you might think, why go to books when I have podcasts and YouTube videos? While these newer mediums are more entertaining, or make it easier to multitask while learning, books are still valuable for several reasons. 1. You can do deeper dives over multiple days. Studies have shown that when you think about or study a subject for days or weeks in a row, it is more likely to stick than if you jam it all into a short period, aka the 25-minute YouTube video. 2. You can move at your own pace. While I enjoy the YouTube availability of quick answers, books allow you to skim, scan, and pause at your own leisure. Sure, there's a pause button on YouTube videos, but books are broken up into paragraphs that tend to chunk information better. 3. If you own a book, you can annotate or write notes in it. I remember when I first got it in my head that it was okay to write in a book I owned. If you know my upbringing, then it's no surprise that that was the Bible, but still a game changer in tracking thoughts and being able to circle back to ideas, which brings me to my final reason. And that is, books allow you to jump back and forth between sections more easily than videos or audiobooks allow you to. Page numbers are easier to reference than minute marks, hands down. Once you unlock the superpower of speed reading, this skill becomes invaluable if you are studying for a test, studying for a license, researching a project, or even just trying to get a certificate. But enough about why books are awesome, because everybody should just know that books are awesome. And if you didn't know, now you know. Books are awesome. Podcasts are awesome too, especially mine, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Wow, that was such a YouTube move. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff. Here are 5 books that I believe will help change your life. First, if you want to get a change in your career or find what you are called to do, then I recommend the book Discover the Best Jobs for You by Ronald L. Kranich and Carol Ray Kranich. And this copy that I have is rather old because it was given to me from my sensei. Yeah, my kendo sensei, because he knows that I'm looking to get a job glow up, as I've referenced it as, and he suggested this book along with several others. But the reason I like this book is because most of us define ourselves by how we spend the 30 to 40 hours that we are paid for. We say I'm an artist, or we say I'm an engineer. When people ask, what do, you don't say, oh, I eat Taco Bell on occasion and play video games at night while sometimes working this job. No, you usually use your job to define yourself. And this book helps you discover what that should be. And on the back cover, it specifies that you can assess your abilities and skills, that you should first identify your values and interests, and you should relate your motivated abilities and skills to specific jobs. And the book does go on to define motivated abilities and what that means. Now, some of you would probably say, but you said the book was old. How old is it? Well, this book This copy I have is from the 1980s. And you might say, oh, well, then it's kind of useless. And actually, no. This book actually preaches what I preached in one of my first podcast episodes, which was find out what it is that you like to do and what you are good at. Because there are so many jobs out there that if you start looking for a job without knowing what you're looking for and what you like to do, then the possibilities are endless, and you might also get frustrated by how long the search takes. So this book takes that advice and puts it into a more concise, more direct method. And good news, it has since been rewritten into a fourth edition. Hopefully they're going to make a fifth edition because technology keeps changing the way the world is. However, seeing as they actually, in this 1980s version, did know that a future job was going to be artificial intelligence translator or trainer, and that is a job that exists now in 2025, they weren't too far off the mark. So, discover the best jobs for you, tools and strategies for career success. Again, great book. I'm looking forward to finishing it. This is the only book in the stack that I haven't fully finished because it is the one that I got most recently. However, if you are trying to find out what it is that you should do, this book is the perfect starting point. Next on my list is Atomic Habits by James Clear. It says in the tagline, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Now, this book is very, very good no matter what you are doing. Are you an athlete? Get this book. Are you trying to learn a new skill? Read this book. Are you trying to study for a test that will ultimately decide if you get into that job or career that you're looking into? Read this book. Now, the beautiful thing about this book is that the author had to practice what he preaches because he, and I'm not going to spoil too much, but there was an incident that he had where he had to basically relearn a lot of his skills in life. And due to that relearning process, he found ways to learn and complete any task he did by setting up habits. And also, he talks about how to not only set up good habits, but how to avoid bad habits, and also how reward and punishment systems should be used. Because a lot of us tend to have rewards set up as well as punishment set up, but we don't use them and leverage them to the capability that they can be used. And James Clear does a really good job of describing how that system should be set up. Again, Atomic Habits, great way to start moving towards that goal that you have. By the way, I will put in the show notes links to these books so you can find them and reference them for yourself. On deck, I have here The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Tagline, jumpstart your income, your life, and your success. Now, this book is great, and I actually found this book by accident because I was on a overnight flight from Japan. I was visiting a friend for a wedding. When I was living in Japan, I was coming back to the US, and I was like, oh, well, let me just put on a book that they have on the free listening app that they have on Delta flights now. And this was one of the books, and I was expecting something to just like put in the background and not really pay attention to. However, the wisdom that they were dropping was I had to listen. I actually didn't end up sleeping. I ended up listening to basically the whole book because I just found it to be so engaging. And the reason it stuck out to me was it was the first book I read during that 2010s grind era where everybody was like, grind, grind, grind. Don't sleep. Just move towards your goal. It was the first book I read or listened to that didn't try to say you're not enough. It's like, oh, well, you need to do more. Compound effect is actually about doing less. It's about choosing what you do and doing it consistently so that over time you will get the rewards. And that's the big thing about this book. That's one of the big things about Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is great for learning how to set up the habits. Compound effect is great in showing you the effect of sticking with habits over time. And Darren Hardy does have an enterprise set up on helping people to reach their ultimate goals. And you can actually find some of his stuff for free by going to darrenhardy.com. One of my favorite things that he has is the Darren Daily. It's motivational advice and good advice for business, life, that kind of is set up to start your day in a positive way. But you'll find that it has a lot of good moments and a lot of good ahas in there. Again, Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Way to jumpstart your life. Continuing on is The One Thing by Gary Keller with Jay Papasan. And yes, this is the co-founder of Keller Williams Keller. The Keller Williams Realty signs that you see all over the place. And I would imagine that Papasan is the guy that created the chair with his namesake. I made up that last part, but it's still an entertaining thought. Regardless, this book is great for explaining how certain demands and systems can actually hold you back. So the compound effect is about setting up systems and seeing how the systems work over time. The one thing is about getting rid of things that don't work for you and focusing on, get this, the one thing that will move you towards your goal. Now, I have to reread this book because it has been a little minute since I've read it, but essentially what it discusses is how you have so many distractions in your life. And I think we all can agree that the life we live now is ultimately more distracting. The world is literally at our fingertips. You can check the weather in Istanbul if you want to. You have probably no reason to, but it's something you could do. You have emails that you feel like you need to check. Texts, tweets, or whatever they call them now. But there are millions of things that are trying to distract you, that are calling for your attention. And the one thing tries to show you how to focus on what you need to do. And it does that by helping you define what your one thing should be. Because I believe all of us need more focus, but we're not sure how to get there. And this book not only emphasizes that you do need focus, it shows you and gives you some steps on how to get there. Last but never least is one of my favorite books. Actually, it's my favorite finance book, but it's become one of my favorite self-help books over the years. And that is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I hope I'm saying his name right. Every time I pronounce it, I feel like I'm getting it wrong. So I apologize, Ramit. But this book is fantastic. And I've mentioned this book before, and it's so good, it's worth repeating. Of all the finance articles and books I've read, this is the most concise and cumulative books I've read on finance. Now, the reason I mention this last is because none of it will work unless you have a job, which the first book will help you out with, and have some goals, because Ramit is not just about earning money. He's about having a rich life. Strangely enough, this book is hardly about earning money. It's about once you have money coming in, whether that's from a low paying job or high paying job, how to leverage that money and maximize it with what you have. He even does have tips in there on how to get a raise, how to look for better jobs, but he's not out here spitting quick rich schemes or, as he likes to say, telling you to give up your lattes and avocado toast so you can get rich quick. Because, like the other books I've mentioned, he knows that it is a process. Well, that is it today. Let's recap the books I have. And again, I would read them in the order that I presented them. So the first book, Discover the Best Jobs for You, Tools and Strategies for Career Success by Ronald L. Cranich and Carol Ray Cranich, PhDs. They emphasize that on their cover. Next, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Tiny changes, remarkable results. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Pretty easy read too, honestly. So this book is about habits. Once you have those habits, you need motivation to keep them. Read The Compound Effect. It also teaches you habit building skills. And one of my favorite things about this book is how it has action steps at the end of each chapter. Because, as Darren Hardy says, knowledge should not only be learned, it should be applied. After that, you have good habits and you have hopefully a good job or career. So you need to learn the one thing, The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results by Gary Keller with Jay Papasan. Again, this book is about focus. So you have your job, you have your habits, and you have your goals. Now, how can you hone that in so that you can get even better results? And as I said before, last never least, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. This book, no matter what your financial bracket is, will teach you how to live a better life. I am by no means rich, but this book has given me invaluable advice that has actually saved me from a couple of tight financial spots and has set me up, I believe, to have a better financial life in the future. That's it for today. If your local library doesn't have these books, you can check with your local bookstore. If your local bookstore doesn't have them, you can check with a big box store. And if they don't have them, push come to shove, there's always online shops to check out. If you have any questions for me, leave a comment, now possible on multiple platforms, or reach out at thinkingaheadpodcast.com. In the meantime, keep believing in yourself, keep reading good books, and keep thinking ahead.